Something a lot of people have been asking recently is, what can I do right now? What can I do to keep preparing even if I don't have any money or inflation is hitting me too hard to where I really can't afford to do much more in the sense of prepping? When it comes to buying food, equipment, tools of the trade, whatever it might be, things are getting very expensive and people are having less and less income that they can dispose in that way. So one of the best things you can do right now, and something that we all need to be better about, is just getting out and using the preps that you have already invested in. You need to get out there and actually test out your gear, use the stuff that you spent your money on, and find out if it's actually going to work for you or not in an SHTF scenario, because during that time, things are going to be much worse than they are right now, which means anything that will fail now will definitely fail then. And I was out doing a little ruck today around the property, trying to get used to this bag that I've reconfigured recently, and I will have a bug out bag video coming out very soon here for all of you. But it just reminded me that getting out here and wearing this and walking around with it and really putting some miles underneath this bag is letting me know what works for me, what doesn't, what items I actually need, what I don't need, what's giving me hot spots, and everything else related to that experience. But without that experience, you're not going to know that until it's too late. And I even had somebody comment recently on an Instagram post saying, hey, I picked a certain bag out for special forces training, and then I found out that it was terrible, and the whole time I was doing my training, it was like torture. And that's exactly how it would be in SHTF if you don't get out and test this stuff out now. So as of right now, right this second, while we still have relative peace, while we still have relative rule of law, and while things are still moving in a relatively normal fashion in the sense of being able to try out different gear and being able to invest in some new products if you have the capability to, I would say the number one thing to be doing right this second is just using your gear. Really figure out if it's going to work for you or not. Really figure out if the setup you have is going to do the job that you think it will when that time comes. And then at the same time, get rid of stuff that doesn't work for you and flip it for other things. Start being smart about how you can reinvest some of those preps that either don't necessarily do the job you wanted them to, or maybe that you've outgrown over the years, and that you can then reinvest that income you're able to recuperate and then buy something better or buy something different that might actually do a better job for you. There's a lot of different ways to approach the current situation we're all in. I can't just be spending the money I wish I could on every single new piece of gear that comes out or more ammunition or whatever else it might be, but I can get outside, walk around with my pack on, and really find out if it's going to do what I think it will, which I'm certain it will now that I've spent some time with it, although there are still things I'd like to change. However, can I afford to make those changes right this second? Maybe not. So I have to also figure out how to compromise and adapt with what I already have so that I can live with it regardless of whether or not it's the optimum choice. Because it's something else you have to keep in mind as well. I could get this pack down by a lot of weight if I had the financial breathing room to buy all of the most high-end gear and most high-end backpacking stuff that they have available on the market. But spending $500 on a sleeping bag versus $120 on a sleeping bag is a hard pill to swallow if you don't necessarily have that extra $500 just sitting around. So don't feel like you're falling behind because you don't have the most high-tech gear or anything else like that. Get what you can that's going to do a good job, get something of decent, reputable quality, and then do the time and do the investment you need to do in order to find out how that gear works and what compromises you're making now based on the fact that that's what you're going to have to settle for. All of these things are different ways to approach the current scenario we're in. There's really not a better time to do this though. If you haven't tested certain gear out, if you haven't taken new guns out and shot them to make sure they actually cycle correctly or make sure that they're doing the job you want them to do, if you haven't worn your backpack around for more than just walking around your living room, you really need to get out and spend the time we have right this second and do it now. Do it before things get really bad. And with everything happening, with our government falling apart in many ways and our civil structure basically not even being there any longer, and then the fact that we have all of this overseas action occurring right this second, it's really just a matter of time until something really big happens. And you know what? I still to this day will always say I hope it doesn't. I don't want to actually have to get out and walk around with this bag for miles and miles on end until I get to my bug out location. But if that time comes, I'll know what to expect, and I'll also know how to deal with any of the limitations I had to present myself with based on the current gear setup I have. So Look forward to an awesome bug out bag video that I'll have being posted here very soon. Understand that this will be me sharing with you some of the things that I have and some of the things that I use, but it'll also be an opportunity for me to ask for your advice and your input. I'll be asking people, how can I make this lighter? What other types of gear should I look into that might do the same job but more efficiently? And whatever it is, because a big part of this channel is I'm learning from you all just as much as you're learning from me. So let me know in the comments below what it is you're working on right now. What are you testing out? What kind of gear have you actually gotten out and been able to field recently that will give you more of an idea of whether or not it's going to work for you? And at the same time, what are you struggling with? What is making it hard for you to do these things right this second, or what is making it hard for you to get the things that you need? Because honestly, with inflation and the economy the way it is right now, I mean, even just driving somewhere is kind of painful, let's be honest. Filling up the gas tank, no matter if the prices are better than they were a month ago, doesn't matter because they're still terrible. They're not still better than they were a year ago. We're just talking about a month ago now to make ourselves feel better. But at the end of the day, everything is still too expensive, and it makes living life very hard, which means prepping is even harder, because prepping is always something that you have to tack on to the rest of your life in order to be efficient at it and to progress in it. And it is something that is getting harder and harder to do in many different ways. So I wanted to have this conversation. I want to get back to rucking and sweating and doing all the things that I usually try to do to make myself feel more pain, because apparently that's how you progress in this life. But if you have anything else to add, please leave it in the comments below. And like I said, look forward to a very well thought out and complete bug out bag video here in the near future that has expectations of needing your advice and opinion on some of the choices that I've made. So without anything else to say about it, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.